Hey, Jim.
Hey, David, how are you?
Good.
Long time no see.
Yeah. I'm at home today. Thought I'd give it a try.
That is a beautiful, look at that shirt. That is a beautiful shirt.
Thank you. It's a clean one. I had to change when I got home.
We are twins. How was
Yeah.
crawling on the bus?
I inspected 2 of them today. So that gives us 5 inspected new buses and 2 more tomorrow, and then 2 more by the end of the week. So all the new buses are coming fast and furious.
Cool.
Looks like it's 5:30, but I think people are still joining in, so I'm going to give it another couple minutes before we get started. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. Well, it looks like I'm sure people are still going to join, but it does look like we do have enough for a quorum. So I'm going to go through and do a quick roll call, starting with the CMAC members. So just kind of as I see everyone on the screen, actually check that. I'm going to actually go off my roster. That way I won't miss anybody. So looking at the roster, I have Sig Yanaras.
Here.
Harvey Cates.
Hello there.
Hello. Alan Chow.
Yeah.
Suraj Verma. Doesn't look like yet. Jillian Keller.
Hi there.
Hi, Jillian. Paul Malakowski.
Here.
Dora Martinez.
Here.
Vince Harris.
Here.
Lindsay Costello.
Here.
Benjamin Miller. Ben, you on? Looks like he might be having a little connecting trouble. You're muted right now, Ben. I do see his name there. Getting back to the roster here. Mayuko Majima. Jeff Bonanno. Jeff. Laura Azam.
Here.
Hi, Laura. Mike Sozinski.
Here.
Here.
Mauricio Urias. Get Mauricio. Okay. Does not look like he's on. But we do have a quorum, it looks like. For the record, I'm just going to also read all the other attendees, mostly RTC staff, starting with myself because I'm at the top, Daniel Denges. Let's see, Jacqueline Maldonado. Let's see, iPhone, that's David Carr. Jim Gee. Who am I missing here? Xuan Wang. And there are a couple phone numbers. So if I missed anyone, could you just please state your name for the record?
Hi, Dan. Amy Cummings.
Oh, hi, Amy. I'm sorry. You're right there. I glossed right over you somehow. Okay. With that, I think we have a quorum. We could get going. Just a couple quick reminders. If you would, please mute your microphones unless you want to speak, just to cut down on the background noise. And also, the meeting is being recorded as well as being broadcast live on YouTube. Also, if you do wish to speak or to make a motion, please state your name for the record. That will just really help us out with the minutes. And as always, Mr. Chair, I'll ask if you could read back when you take roll call, just who made the motion and who seconded. So I think we're good to go.
Okay, Dan, I'll do the best I can.
Thank you.
Are we ready to go? Good evening, everyone. This is Vince Harris. I'll call the meeting to order at 5:35 at CMAC. If we could begin with item number 1, approval of the agenda. Can I please get a motion to approve the agenda?
This is Jillian Keller. I motion to approve the agenda.
Can I get a second, please? That was
This is
Jillian,
Dora Martinez. I second.
seconded by Dora Martinez. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. The agenda is approved. We're moving on to item number 2, public comment. Staff, did we get any public comment for the meeting this evening?
We did not receive any public comment.
Thank you. Hearing none, we move on to item number 3, approval of the November 4th, 2020 meeting minutes of the CMAC. Were there any comments, changes, or revisions anyone would like to make to the minutes? Okay, hearing none. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes, please?
This is Dora
Harvey
Martinez.
Cates, I move that we approve the minutes.
Dora Martinez. I second.
Motion by Harvey, seconded by Dora. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes. We're moving down this agenda pretty quickly. Moving on to item number 4, acknowledge receipt of a report on the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, or RTP, and provide input. Do we have a report from staff?
Yes, thank you. This is Amy Cummings with RTC, and I'm going to be providing some information about where we are with our 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. We're at a really pivotal point in our development right now. So we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight to give us your input on, we're looking at 2 items tonight. One is our vision for transit, and the other is a preliminary look at the roadway projects. We're getting ready to launch our public virtual public meeting and survey related to the roadway project. So we want to give you an advanced preview of that and make sure we have an opportunity to collect your input. So, but first, to start with our vision for transit, this is, I want to start with what our overall purpose is and what we see as our overarching goals for their transit system. And that's to provide a productive, cost-effective, and high-quality transit service. And by high quality, one of the elements of that is to have a great customer experience. We know that a big part of what we do is provide mobility and access to jobs and employment opportunities. So we want that workforce mobility to stay as a core part of our system, and also look for ways to attract new riders. We want to continue to use innovative approaches to maximize the services that we offer, even though our resources are limited. And you're familiar with many of those, the Vanpool, FlexRide, Washoe Senior Ride. We want to make sure that those continue to fill the specialized transportation needs of our community. And of course, to continue with outreach and marketing so that we're attracting more people to our system. This plan is going to be refined next year in terms of our short range transit plan. That's a study that RTC is going to be undertaking in addition to the regional transportation plan that will dive down into the route and stop level service that we provide on our fixed route. So there will be more detail to come from the short range transit plan, But we know that as we have more resources that may become available for transit operations, we really want to focus on increasing the frequency in our urban core, because we know that's where most of our riders are, and we'll be able to attract the most new customers and serve them the best. We also want to be very strategic in how we try to increase ridership. And that's the level of analysis that's going to be going into the short range transit plan. But I do want to provide the sort of background, and I know you are all familiar because you've seen our budget and other materials over the years. Right now, we're providing the maximum amount of service that we can for the revenues that are available. So any expansions from where we are today are going to be dependent on a growing economy that increases our sales tax and lets us expand, or any new funding sources that may become available. So definitely something to keep in mind there. We are very pleased with the performance of FlexRide and our demonstration service that's been going on in phases, but started over a year ago in Sparks. And we've seen this be successful in replacing some of the lower performing routes and attracting more riders to the system through doing that in a more effective way. So this we see as a good tool, again, if we have the resources to expand service at some point in the future. If we do want to serve those outlying areas, FlexRide is really the best tool that we have to do that compared to fixed route. And Rapid, of course, is our premier transit service. And this is every 10 minutes. It's high amenity, high frequency. And we've had great success with our Virginia line and our Lincoln line. So we do want to look to the future for the long-term vision for our Rapid system. And we see that as an extension of the Lincoln line out to Keystone and an extension of the Virginia line south to Mount Rose Highway, Geiger Grade area. And again, we don't have the resources or the funds to be able to do this at present, but we want to make sure it's in our plan so we can continue to work toward that and have that as our long-term vision. We have maintenance facility needs that we want to keep working on too. You're all familiar with the Spaghetti Bowl project, and there's a phase of that. Again, it's a number of years out in 2037, but that phase of Spaghetti Bowl that gets down to Plum Lane is going to require the relocation of our maintenance facility. So we do want to start thinking now, even though it is a long time away. It seems like a long time now, but in transportation planning terms, we don't want that to get too far without us doing some advanced planning. So we want to start looking at that. We also have identified some benefits of expanding our Sutro maintenance facility to allow us to accommodate more zero emission fueling capabilities. We do not have funds identified for those. There are some capital improvements that we have identified funding sources for, and these are more near term. 4th Street Station in downtown Reno. The city of Reno owns about a half block of property just to the south and adjacent to 4th Street Station. And they are interested in talking with us about RTC purchasing that property. And that would give us the space to add 4 more bays and electric chargers, which gives us more flexibility in how we can operate out of 4th Street Station. So, and a little bit more parking as well. So we think that's a great opportunity that we want to continue to explore. And this one is, as I said, a more near-term project within the next few years. One that is currently underway is upgrading our Peppermill station. And I know you probably remember this from our Regional Transportation Improvement Program. Right now, in our affordable housing study, we have one of our mini stations there. And even though it's right across the street from Peppermill and has some of the highest boardings of any bus stop in our system. So we really want to upgrade that to a full size rapid station with all the seating that we need and all the amenities that people expect from our rapid service. And there's also, as I mentioned, the affordable housing study. That project identified the possibility of a joint development, which we might pursue with the Federal Transit Administration, for some sort of affordable housing that could be behind the station, because there will be probably some remnant parcel left after the station is constructed. Again, we're very early in that process. another big priority for us that's already underway. And you all remember, I'm sure, the ADA transition plan and our bus stop improvement program. So we've identified for the next few years funding that's already in our program to upgrade some of the worst bus stops that we have in our network. And that means widening sidewalks, providing connectivity to the nearest intersection, and providing that ADA compliant landing area at each bus stop. So I have a picture here of Mill Street, or on Mill Street, of a station or a bus stop that was recently upgraded. We've identified about 100 of these that we're currently working on in various stages of design and right-of-way acquisition. We hope to have 2 batches of them under construction next year as well. So this is going to be an ongoing project for us. We're finding that about 20 to 30 bus stops a year is what we've been able to do given the length of getting easements and right-of-way and that sort of thing. So we have a big slate of projects identified in the short term in design, and our ADA transition plan identified the next 300 bus stops that we're going to be working on. So for a good part of this RTP, we're going to have bus stop improvements identified and funded. And finally, another passenger facilities. We are going to continue to look at options for relocating our Meadowwood Mall transfer station. That is property that's owned by the mall itself, and they've expressed an interest in having us relocate to a different area of the mall, so we want to continue to work with them. And we've also heard through our outreach process the need to have what we're calling mobility hubs in downtown Reno and downtown Sparks. And that would include parking, bike parking, and van pool parking, as well as places for folks to connect with Ride and Rapid and some of the employer shuttles in our region. So that will probably be coming to you as a planning study in the next year or two to get into more detail about what that could look like. And that brings me to the close of the transit portion of where we are in the RTP. So I wanted to take a pause there for any comments or questions or thoughts that members of the committee might have for us.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay. Who's speaking?
This is Harvey. I have a question. When do you expect the extension of the rapid service down to Mount Rose Highway might be completed? And would that extension include service to the South Reno UNR TMCC campus there at Wedge Parkway and Mount Rose Highway?
We've put in a planning grant application with the Federal Transit Administration that would look at kind of taking us to the next level of refining the scope of that project. And one of the opportunities we see is if we have the rapid extending down to the Summit Mall, to complement that with another flex ride service area. So the rapid might not go to the TMCC campus, but we could have a flex ride that would connect those two. Again, we're very early in looking at those types of details. And as I mentioned, we don't have funding available currently. We know it would be probably order of magnitude, $2 to $3 million to operate that extension. So it is going to be contingent on more funding, not just for the capital, but also operating. So it is a longer term project. We want to start now, even if it may be, just for context, the Virginia Street extension that we're working on now was about 8 years in project development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have other questions for Amy on transit?
Hello.
Amy, this is who's speaking?
Oh, this is Dara Martinez. I apologize. I have a question. May I go? Or may I ask? Hi, Amy. So my question to you regarding the ADA bus stops, do you guys did a survey and that's how you determine which bus stop will get let's say a facelift? And the second question is regarding the island on the Meadowwood Mall. I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear. Did you say that you guys are going to relocate? And if so, would RTC consider making the layout a bit different in terms of usability? Because I have a service dog, and when people are sitting or standing around, it's hard to locate which bus is what. And I don't know if those poles have numbers, or if the bus could, when they open the door, sometimes they will announce what bus it is, like Route 1 inbound. Sometimes they don't say that, and I can't hear anything, and I don't know which bus is there because of the layout, how it is, and I miss connection. So I was just wondering when, if you guys are going to redo that, maybe we could get one head is more input in that. Sorry, thank you.
I appreciate that comment. Thank you. And I know David Carr is on this call as well, and he's our fleet and facilities manager. So that's something we can continue some conversations about internally. And in terms of this relocation, the area that was identified in our affordable housing study is potentially moving over closer to the TMCC building, because there's a large parking lot area that's underutilized right now. So again, that's a longer term project, but that's the general area that we're thinking about. And in terms of our bus stop improvement program, our transit department does maintain a database of all of our bus stops. So we know essentially the severity of the deficiencies of all of our bus stops. And the ones we've identified for these first batches are the ones that are really the most efficient, but also have highest ridership and are near places with, generators, employment, or medical, or other type of destinations where we think people would want to be able to get to. And the ADA transition plan used a similar approach and did a very detailed analysis of exactly what the deficiencies are at each of our bus stops for that next 300. And we did a public involvement component of that as well. Many public meetings and surveys to make sure that the community had an opportunity to recommend specific bus stops for us to prioritize as well.
Okay, this is Dora Martinez again. Sorry, I had to do a follow-up. So with the bus stops and some of the bus stops, I don't know, I can't see in the dark, but some of them, I don't know if they have light, because if it wasn't for my dog's harness that reflects light, I think the bus driver would have missed me. So maybe that'll be a good thing to install with some, I don't know, solar panel lights or something. Just a heads up. Thank you, Amy. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions on transit for Amy? Amy, this is Vince Harris. I have a couple of just general questions.
Okay.
I was wondering, can you tell me what is the size of RTC's bus fleet?
We have about 75 buses, although I know David Carr would know the exact number.
68.
Okay. 68. And how many maintenance facilities do you have to service those vehicles?
One for the fixed route, one for paratransit.
Is the anticipation of increasing the fleet size in this RTP?
Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you.
That would
Any other questions?
I just wanted to respond to Dora's comment was we have a solar light program, and we have lights and panels ready to go. We had the initial pilot was installed about 2 months ago, and the solar panel was immediately stolen. So we had to go back to the drawing board and look to get a way to secure those panels, and we'll be deploying those in the spring this year. So we have solar lights, and we have a program that we're getting ready to kick off. We're just a little behind schedule because of some securing issues, And then I'll get with Jim Gee, who's our innovation and operations manager. He's also on the call, and we can talk about what we've been looking at in terms of how we could make vision impaired accommodations at these transit centers so that we could figure a way to identify which bus is which. But in the meanwhile, I'll make sure that I go touch base with Keolis tomorrow and let them know that we need to make those types of announcements whenever possible, which bus it is at, particularly at Meadowwood and those kind of places. Thank you.
Thank you, David Carr. Thank you.
Amy, it looks like it's back to you.
Thank you. Then we'll shift gears a little bit and start talking about the Roadway program. And I know we've been in front of you before talking about the evaluation criteria. So I'm going to touch on those briefly and also just kind of give you the context of where we are. We have about 200 projects that have been identified for us to consider for inclusion in the regional transportation plan. And we're working on developing a survey, an online survey, since we can't do our traditional in-person big public workshop. So we're going to work on a virtual public workshop with an online survey. So trying to get those 200 projects into a format that it's easy for people to digest and take a look at, and then give us their feedback on priorities has been our challenge. So we've been working on a way to package those projects. And what we're looking at now is using 4 categories because some of our projects are very different. So it's hard to, we wanted to get as apples to apples as possible. So we'll look at all this freeway projects together, all of the new road construction together, all of the capacity projects on existing roads together, and all of our multimodal projects that don't add new roadway capacity together. So we're going to be working on our virtual public meeting and our survey. One of our evaluation criteria is public input. So we'll draw that from the survey. So we do have some preliminary evaluation of these projects to share with you today, but I want to make it very clear that that is going to change because we don't have the public input component yet. And we're going to hope to have that by the end of this month. Perhaps with that survey going out as early as next week. So we'll definitely make sure that everyone on this committee receives that when it is available. So we hope to be back next month with a draft project listing that incorporates that public input. So that's where we are. And in terms of the evaluation criteria, and I know you've seen these before, for all of the project types, we're looking at safety, traffic volumes and congestion, project readiness, where it falls within the land use designations in the regional plan that's developed by Truckee Meadows Regional Planning Agency, whether there's private or other agency funding that's going to be part of the package, equity, and public input and agency input as well. For projects on existing roads, we have data from our bike ped master plan that we can bring and incorporate there. We also have pavement condition information, and where there are other flood improvements that can be integrated with our roadway projects. We want to recognize that too. A couple different things that we're looking at, because that information is not available for a road that doesn't exist. We're looking at the cost per average daily traffic, and also emergency response and fire evacuation for new road construction, because we've heard from Truckee Meadows Fire that that is a big priority for them and some of the areas of our community that right now you may only have one way in and out, and they really wanted us to take a closer look at those emergency evacuation issues. So this is, again, just a overview that will change when we get the public input criteria, but I wanted to give you a sense of how those evaluation criteria actually match up with the projects that we've shared with you before that we're looking at. So I think it probably won't be too surprising when we look at, we're going to start with the multimodal projects based on those evaluation factors. And the way we're going to rank these is not so much projects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The way the RTP is structured, we want to identify the program that we can deliver in the first 5 years of the plan, the second 5 years of the plan, and then the remaining, 10 to up to 2050 years of the plan. So we don't need to get too hung up on specific, points, but just wanted to give you a sense of what were some of the higher ranking projects based on those criteria, which again, I don't think will be a surprise to folks on the call today. The multimodal improvements in that sidewalk and bike and cycle track or buffered bike lane on Center Street, safety improvements and ADA accessibility on West 4th Street, pedestrian and safety improvements on Rock Boulevard, Keystone Avenue, Vassar Street, Oddie Wells, and East 6th Street. So several of these are already in development. The one that's probably getting a little bit higher elevation here than in previous plans are Vassar and East 6th Street, although they have been identified in other studies. So that is for multimodal. And there are more projects. I'm just kind of highlighting some of the ones that were seeming to rise to the top of the list. Now shifting to roadway capacity projects on existing roads. And in these instances, and let me point out too that the multimodal projects are generally clustered in the urban core. So what you see over and over again on these projects are we're retrofitting these older arterials where we have a lot of pedestrian safety issues. We have a lack of bicycle connectivity. And these are dense, employment and residential areas. So you're kind of seeing a different type of project in the urban core. And when you look at the adding new lanes, adding more road car capacity, in coordination, of course, with the multimodal elements, we're always going to be looking at sidewalk and bike facilities when we do capacity projects. But these are in general in the more outlying areas on the periphery. And, when we looked at the scoring criteria that I ran through earlier, again, I don't think there will be too much surprise that the projects that rise to the top are Sparks Boulevard, Pyramid Highway, Lemon Drive, Sky Vista, Virginia Street in particular, the segment near Patriot Boulevard, kind of, this one is one that came out of the South Meadows study to help clear the ramp, the freeway off ramp that backs up there to add another northbound lane so that traffic flow continues there without backing up onto the freeway. Several improvements on McCarran Boulevard. And the one new project that wasn't in our previous RTP or any other studies we've done to date is improvements on Golden Valley Road and 7th Avenue up in North Valleys. And I mentioned we look at the freeways. And again, we're building on the work that NDOT has done. They've done a tremendous amount of analysis on the freeway network. So the Spaghetti Bowl project, which is more than just the current Spaghetti Bowl Express that's under construction right now. The Spaghetti Bowl project is defined in their EIS, goes from about Keystone to McCarran, and it also includes parts of I-580. So that continues to be the highest priority. Widening 395 is right behind it. And then other improvements on I-80, McCarran to Vista, and then on the west side. So look forward to continuing to advance those. And then the final category that we have are new roads. So this is new construction. There's no existing facility today. So these are a little bit unique compared to anything else in the plan. One's, again, not surprisingly, the Pyramid 395 connector rose to the top in terms of providing the greatest benefit, the highest degree of utilization, many times more than any of the other new roadway construction projects. This would connect Pyramid Highway to 395 across the south end of Sun Valley Boulevard and would attract about 60,000 cars a day. So that would provide a lot of relief to the Spaghetti Bowl and to McCarran and improve that mobility between the North Valleys and Spanish Springs and downtown Reno. After that, the other projects all have, generally lower volumes, more in the 20,000 cars a day or less, and that's where we're looking at extending 9th Street to Wells Avenue over near the university. That's one you may remember from the university area study. The West Sun Valley Arterial, and this is one that's currently in the plan, and it would construct a new road on the west side of Sun Valley to relieve some of the traffic on Sun Valley Boulevard. The Eagle Canyon Extension, which I know you recall Dan Dunges talking about at some of our previous meetings, and that would connect North Valleys to Spanish Springs, extending Moya Boulevard near the airport, the Stead Airport, and is extending Estates Drive also in the North Valleys. So those were some of the ones that, again, kind of rose to the top, would be more likely in the first 5 to 10 years of the plan to continue moving forward. But we will look forward to getting more input on the roadway projects from you and from the public as well to complete that scoring and then take that to the RTC board. I welcome any thoughts or questions or comments that you have on the roadway improvements.
I have a question. Can you hear me, Amy?
I can, thank you.
Oh, good. Okay. And this, I don't know if this even relates to your department, but it sounds like you're talking about roadways. Someone had asked me that there's a Costco store possibly coming to the Monte Ranch area within the next couple of years. Have you heard of that?
Well, we were doing the South Meadows area study, and Dan may remember more details on this than I do. There was talk, at that time, we had the question of, is there a Costco coming to South Meadows? And the city of Reno had not received any, specific details about that. There were some other grocery stores that were planned to go in, and I think one of them's under construction now near the Home Depot. But I've not heard anything specific about a Costco. But Dan, I'll defer to you if you have any more recent information on that.
Thanks, Amy. I do not. I know there was kind of talk of that at one point, but they weren't really specific. I think ultimately they want some type of big box store and like some mixed use kind of retail around there. But that's really the extent of the detail I heard.
Oh, okay, because that would lend to a lot of traffic in that area. And my son-in-law lives in that area, and he said there would be a lot of congestion, and things would have to maybe be done around there if that were the caseload of cars in there. And then there was also a question about Boeing, an update on Boeing possibly coming. Have you guys heard that at all?
I have not.
Okay, that's a new thing. Yeah, so, all these rumors, I just wanted to run it by you guys and see if you had heard anything.
And Laura, I would add too that for those type of developments, there are typically some pretty stringent conditions that they have to go through in terms of getting those approvals. And one of those is a traffic impact study. So, they would have to kind of look at current and forecast traffic volume to see what type of development would have in that region, and then would likely be, if approved, would likely be conditioned to construct those improvements to accommodate that. So, there I think there are mechanisms in place to, I guess, mitigate some potential future traffic impacts. But when it does get to that point, we are usually more in close conversation with the city, whether it be Sparks, Reno, or Washoe County, to kind of work through those details.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Hi, this is Dora Martinez. Can I please ask one more last question?
Go ahead, Dora.
So I don't know if this also pertains to your report, Amy, but they opened a new DMV at the RR, and I heard that there is no nearest bus stop, and I'm going there 2 weeks from now, and I was wondering, and I'm trying to look, but it's a map picture and phone computer voiceover has not quite mastered mapping yet. So I'm wondering, is there a bus stop near the RR, the DMV there? You guys know?
There is. I believe there's There's one right in front of it, actually. And we can certainly follow up. It's on Route 56. So we can
Yeah.
provide you some more information about that as well.
Okay, thank you. And kudos to your grant writers for getting that, the infrastructure grant. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Ben Miller. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Ben.
All right. Hey, sorry. This is the first time I've been at this meeting. Actually, the first time I've done a Zoom meeting. So make sure everything's working all right. Amy, I just had a couple questions, and they're kind of overlapping between the Vision for Transit and the Roadway program. I was going over the 2040 RTP, and just one of the things that I was looking for I didn't find was earlier you mentioned that one of your goals is to with workforce mobility and transit to jobs. Is there any information, or are you going to include information in the 2050 version of where people are and where they're going, like commuting, where the majority of them live and where they are ending up, where they're commuting to? I think this would give us a good idea of where the needs are for transportation. Is there any plans to include that in the 2050 version?
Yes, definitely. That's a great point to bring up. We did a survey a couple of years ago we called it a household and visitor survey to try to calibrate that information. We also use traffic counts to know, to feed into our travel demand model so we can get a sense of where those trip distributions are taking place. We've also do periodic surveys, onboard surveys with our transit system to get from our customers, where they're coming from, where they're going to. So it is a sample, but it's a useful tool for us to use in our long range planning.
So is that for just the riders of the transit system, or is that for the community, like the whole community, everybody in cars, everybody in buses, everybody in bicycles and walking?
Well, maybe a good future agenda item for us would be an overview of our travel demand model so that we can make sure everybody kind of has an understanding of how that works. Shun Wong is our senior planner who operates our model. It's based on Transcad as the software platform. And it does exactly what you're talking about. It looks at the geography based on what we call traffic analysis zones. They're sort of a little bit bigger than census tracts to estimate the population and the employment in each of those areas, and then extrapolate how many people are going to be going from one zone to another. And it's trying to take into account, dropping kids off at school, going to the grocery store, going to work, and pulling all of those things in together. And that's been really pivotal in our analysis of the roadway projects to estimate how many cars would actually drive on these roads and where are the needs now and where are the needs going to be, 20 and 30 years from now. And we work really closely with Truckee Metro Planning Agency. They provided us with that population and employment forecast data. They track, kind of in real time, what developments have been submitted to the local jurisdictions, what's in the pipeline, what's been approved, what may be coming up. So they have a really good sense and good data to back up where we think new development's going to occur.
Excellent. That would be great if that information was available. And then just a real quick thing. Do you guys set, I was also looking in the 2040, do you guys set goals for like ridership on the buses? Do you set goals for other types of multimodal transportation? And are those going to be included in the?
Absolutely. And we do have performance measures that are part of the plan. We'll be bringing those to you at a future meeting. What we have currently is looking at the passengers per service hour. That's our kind of standard metric for bus route ridership. Right now, we're going to be kind of in the mode of trying to get people back on the bus because we have seen, 40% drop off because of COVID and, the the shutdown and people staying home, which is good in the current situation that we're in. But we're hoping that, you know, over the next year, we can bring those customers back and then bring more. So our ridership trends are going to look weird because of COVID, and that's kind of a national situation. And for other modes, we have a target within our transit service area of, we just call it, bundle it all together as alternative mode use. So walking, biking, and riding transit. And we have targets for the transit service area and for the Virginia Street corridor and the 4th Street Prater Way corridor, since those are 2 BRT lines. And we've been very successful. Again, COVID has definitely thrown things off, but I know last year we had close to 45% alternative mode share in our TODs. So we've shown that when you provide the facilities, it's very effective at getting people out of their cars if they have a good option.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. They're great questions.
Amy, this
we
is
have any
Dora
more questions,
Martinez
Brandon?
again. I have one
Okay,
more
Dora.
comment. Sorry, I'm taking over. I'm so sorry. But Amy, I want you to know that you have some of the best drivers in RTC and RTC Access. I heard a driver who helped a rider who was on a wheelchair and couldn't wheel himself up the ramp. She got out of the bus and helped him on the bus and got him strapped down. And it was 10 minutes late. Everybody were all mad, but she calmed the riders down. So you have some very well and kind staff, and I just want you to know that. And thank you.
Thank you for sharing that and letting us know.
Do we have any other questions for Amy this evening? Well, hearing none, Amy, thank you so much for the update, the presentation. It was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan, do we need to make a motion to accept the report, or what else do we need to do?
Yeah, please do, Vince. Let's see. I'm trying to see how it's worded on the agenda here, but acknowledge receipt of a report. Yeah.
Can I get a motion to accept the report of the RTP? Anybody?
I move that we accept. This is Harvey Cates. I move that we accept the report.
Laura Azam.
Moved by
Laura Azam.
Laura Azam, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, member announcements or agenda items for future CMAC meetings. Do we have any from the committee?
Yeah, this is Jillian Keller. I'm wondering, I've took a look at some of the materials provided for us, and it looks like there's, one of the things I love about the RTC is how holistic you guys all approach projects. And affordable housing is mentioned repeatedly, and I was just wondering if we could get a little bit more information about what, how the RTC is engaging, managing and bolstering affordable housing when that is a part of some of the transportation logistics and some of the objectives of the plans.
Yeah, thanks, Jillian. I would defer to Amy. Looks like she's muted at the moment, but we did do an affordable housing study earlier this year that was finalized. And to your point, we looked at really kind of that nexus between affordable housing and transit service, more really transit-oriented development type planning, but with an eye toward affordable housing, and looked through the region to see where those opportunities existed. We were very engaged with not only our regional partners, but also the developers of affordable housing, and kind of went through all the locations that we were considering to see what might be feasible. So Amy, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
We could certainly bring that back as a future item and talk a little bit more about Peppermill Station in particular.
Yeah, this is Jillian. I remember us discussing that and looking at specific areas that would be good for, I believe was it RTC land that you were talking with developers about using for building, or maybe City of Reno land? I guess my question is more so about that coordination with regional partners and developers like you're talking about.
Okay, we can bring something back to talk about that.
Okay. Thanks, Jillian. Moving on to item number 6, RTC ride access staff items. This is information only. Do we have any comments this evening?
Vince, I have just a couple. This is Dan Denges for the record. I did want to note I received an email. This is really just for the purpose of the minutes that, let's see, it was about 6:15. Lindsay Costello said she had an internet outage, so she did drop off. So just wanted to note that for the record. But also, I did want to, I should have probably done this toward the beginning, but just acknowledge our new member, Ben Miller, who joined. He's Rudy Leone recently had to step down, and so Ben's kind of filling in her vacancy, and we're looking forward to his participation in the years to come.
Welcome,
Thank you.
Ben.
It's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Dan
Okay,
and Vince.
thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, Vince. This is Jim Gee. Just 3 quick items from the transit side. First,
Okay.
on December 19th, we're going to have our first expansion of the North Valley's Flex Ride service area. That expansion is coming at the request of some businesses who are struggling to get employees to work, and also some of the neighborhood folks. And essentially, we'll be expanding along Virginia, north of Lemon Drive, and then also in the neighborhood along Silver Lake Road between Stead and Moya. So that'll launch on December 19th and will help build that North Valley's Flex Ride ridership. Second, this group heard over the last few months reports from our consultant on the development of our Human Services Transportation Coordination Plan. That plan is a requirement from the Federal Transit Administration to be able to allow us to use Section 5310 funds, which are funds for services for the disabled and elderly. That plan is going to our board later this month, so that's the update there. And then finally, Dora mentioned it earlier, but we were really lucky in that we were just one of 6 systems in the country to receive a research grant from the Federal Transit Administration to look at real-time infrastructure. And our plan is a partnership between RTC and UNR. We will be installing LiDAR on some of our buses and using LiDAR and cameras and 3D imaging to basically review our stops and shelters as the bus goes by. And if there's a pole out of place or a shelter panel that's broken, we'll have an automated system that gets reported back to us internally, so we can send a crew out there to fix the issue before the passengers have to report it or before the driver has to report it. So we're automating that process and should have much quicker response and using some really cool technology to do it. So kudos to our grant folks for getting that grant for us. That's all I have.
Thank you. So we're at item number 7. Dan, did we receive any additional public comment this evening?
No further public comment.
All right, thank you. Before we move for adjournment, I just want to take a moment and say happy holidays to all of the committee and others. We appreciate your work and effort, and have a holiday, be safe. I'd like to have a motion to move for adjournment.
This is Dora Martinez. I move to adjourn.
Moved by Dora. Can I get a second? Ben? Was that Ben?
Sure, I can do it. Ben Miller motions for second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned at 24.
Thank
Happy
you. Merry
holidays,
Christmas.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right, thanks.
Take
you guys.
care.
Have a good night.